Anyone who knows this man personally considers him a blessing in their life because of his Zen mentality. This is one of the rising stars of Bollywood, and trust me, one of the deepest minds that I've come across on my own. I'm glad to bring him on the show. This is Shakun Batra opening up about the world of Indian films, about the world inside the mind of a director, about how this entire industry is evolving and keeping up with social media, keeping up with the digital times. This is a conversation about Bollywood, the Indian film industry, like never before. You're going to enjoy Shakun Batra on The Ranveer Show. Remember to follow TRS on Spotify. We're Spotify exclusive, which means that every episode is available on Spotify 48 hours before it's available anywhere else in the world. I urge you to consume the entire podcast. And if you can't consume the entire podcast, make sure you check out highlights of this episode on our highlights channel, TRS Clips. Without further ado, this is Shakun Batra, one of the sharpest minds that I know on The Ranveer Show. Shakun Batra, welcome to The Ranveer Show.
What up, man?
I'm such an admirer of the way you look at cinema. You're my cinematic crush in many ways. And this is what I told you the first time we met. So the first time we met, you said, "Hi, I'm Shakun." I didn't know you're Shakun Batra. And then as we hung out that evening, I got to know you're Shakun Batra, and I was like, "Yo, Kapoor, I love Kapoor and Sons."
And I just want to tell you that night, because I'd been shooting for so long and I had been in this kind of just this shoot, headspace, that I felt that after a long time I met some people outside of the film shoot world, and I had such a good time because I was like, these people are real and they're doing something real, because you were talking about all these ideas and all the, you're so enterprising and you had all these thoughts about what you want to do. And I was like, damn, and I'm just making one film and he has 13 ideas he wants to work on.
Yeah,
So I remember that night.
It's also the curse of ADHD. And you're one of the few incredible creative professionals I've seen who don't really have any sort of version of ADHD at all. You're a very calm person, man.
I often think about it because that is my fear. I feel like when I do more than one thing, I start to get scared, and that's why I'm fascinated by multifaceted people who do two or three things at the same time. Because I feel if there was an opposite of ADHD, it would possibly be me, because I'm that person who can only do one thing at a time, and even in that one thing, I have to compartmentalize what one thing that I'm doing, and that's how I like to work.
I think that's a beautiful version of life, man.
I don't know. I mean, it works either way. I think it works. You have to. I mean, you and I both are equally fascinated by the mind and the working of the mind, and I think the idea is to accept how your mind functions and how do you stay at peace with your mind. So if your mind, you stay at peace with your mind by doing multiple things, then that's you gotta, as I said, you gotta handle your monster. And so I handle it by just doing one thing at a time.
So while Gehraiyaan is looking great, the question to you is that through all the films you create, are you trying to explore your own mind as the director, as the creator?
100%, man. I tell you, I was just telling someone the other day, I feel like after you realize uh, what a film can do to you when you make it, it would almost be kind of sad if you don't let go through that journey with the film. Because I feel when you make a film, the film has this power to change you while you make it, and you don't know what it's going to do to you. It's like a journey that you go on and it'll change you. There is no way that you're going to come out the same person. Part of you wants to go into it because your mind will face challenges. You will come across your own conditioning, your own patterns that you didn't think you had before. And part of me loves it because you are going through this where you're going to come to a bigger understanding of who you are. And I don't think I want to make films unless it opens those doors in my head. It gives me a window into my own little conditioning and patterns, and that's constantly happening. And on this film especially, because I was it's the first female protagonist that I wanted to do kind of write about with my co-writers. So I had to step into, a different kind of a psyche. Plus, it was about infidelity, and for me to realize that even though I've always felt I'm liberal and I'm, left of center, and I've always felt like, oh no, I get it, but to constantly come to a place where you're like, am I trying to protect this character too much because I judge them already? Am I judging this moment? Am I am I doing this just so that audience can be okay with it, or is this how it should be? Those kind of conditioning really, I mean, I was surprised that I was constantly facing those moments. And then people, my girlfriend, some of the other women I have in my life who are extremely, they have, so to say, great perspective, and they would give me the little insight into my own writing. So that was very helpful.
So you were trying to explore your own feminine energy in your mind, because every man has both masculine and
Right.
feminine energies.
Right.
Maybe you were trying to do that.
Right.
My question to you, and this I'm not asking you as a podcaster. This I'm asking you just as a brother who's like,
Yeah.
now known you for a few months.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I saw the Gehraiyaan trailer, there was two things that popped out at me. One was the framing and the gorgeousness, which I've told you about like in the past. But the second was infidelity.
Right.
And I've been cheated on, and it was one of the worst things to ever
feel
happen in
sorry
my
for you.
life.
Yeah, sure.
So it put me in a little uncomfortable place.
Yeah.
But also, I got curious about what
Right.
could be inside.
Right.
And maybe it's gonna make me face my sense of, I don't know, dude, pain.
Right.
But I'd still want to watch the film.
Great. I mean, yeah, and listen, the thing is, we've put such pressure on relationships, and infidelity has always been looked upon as, so to say, the wrong thing, and but the thing is, it exists, and people get drawn into these circumstances, and it happens, and it can get extremely complex and complicated. It comes with its share of pain, but to also just sometimes accept that it can happen and it can cause pain, uh, and also understand what are the circumstances in which it happens, and can we be more aware of those things, and I don't know, those things also matter, I guess.
Have you been cheated on?
Not cheated on, but I think I my when you're in school, you are absolutely in love. This is the one true love you'll ever wanted to be in, because also at that time your idea of romance is, your idea of love is too romanticized. You want to be in love, you want to feel the pain, you want to be that one person who believes that this is the one. I've never felt that since, and so yeah, when that relationship broke up and I realized there was somebody else, that was hard. But and after that, things been great. I mean, I don't know if things been great actually now that I think of it, because I wonder if I've ever really been in love, and did that relationship damage me to a point where I can't be in love? I don't know, but those are the things.
Yeah.
What about you? How many times you been in love?
The moment you said school time, I
Yeah.
thought of the first girl I ever had a crush on. Her name was Sheena Singh.
Ah,
She's
sweet.
chill. She's a friend now.
Yeah.
But we broke up, and I thought, oh, I'm never gonna fall in love again. I fell in love in the 10th grade, dated someone for 3.5 years deeply. And then I think I fell in love directly when I was 23, 24. With the same girl I got cheated on.
Oh, no, yeah.
And since then, in the last 3-4 years, I've not felt like I can fall in love again.
I feel like in your 30s, your understanding of a relationship and love changes so drastically, and by then weathered a few scars, and I feel like you become more conscious, and you're more, so to say, and I won't say cynical, but sometimes a little more realistic about it. And then part of the reason I wanted to make this film is that, because I feel like my idea of love was changing, and I thought that, our films have been so oversimplified this idea of love so much that we've actually kind of reduced it. It's become very reductive, the idea of love in our films. And I was like, why don't we explore it, zoom out a little more? Why don't we explore it with its complexity? Love has its complexity. It's actually not a straight on emotion. It's not, I think we are so hung on to the idea of just the purest form of love that we want to negate and not accept anything that steps outside of that boundary. And
being cheated on has taken away the simplicity of love for me. Now I view it in the way that you do. Maybe because you're older than me, you're saying that. You know, you probably see.
I could be, and Ranveer, it's not that. Honestly, man, I do want to go back and feel the simple, the simplified version of love. I would love to go back and feel the romanticized idea of it, but it's not something that I'm constantly looking forward, looking at as just that. If it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, I still feel there's enough happy things that one can find in a relationship, and and you just change, so to say, your hook into it. You don't have to want the same thing to be happy that you felt before. I think the idea is to kind of see what that relationship is giving to you in that present moment, and you can't just keep measuring it to the previous one or what you felt back then. I think that's where you set too many expectations out of it. So that.
Yeah, speaking about expectations, I have to ask you about this whole an actor's mind concept. Okay, we had Tapsi Pannu on the show, we had Mrinal Thakur on the show, we had Abhishek Bachchan on the show, and all of them spoke about as actors, they feel emotionally like kind of distraught after a shoot is done because they have to keep tapping into shit that they're actually not feeling.
Sure.
So if you're happy, but if you're feeling sad, you have to tap into that, actually feel sad, and then that affects their personal lives. Do you think a director goes through the same thing through the course of his film? Like if you're making something dark, do you also start having dark thoughts?
I think maybe not as much. I think because you don't have to emote, you have to obviously help or be there for the actors to kind of take them on that journey. But when you're taking 6 or 7 takes, and now my reputation has been spoiled terribly for taking too many takes. The thing is, you don't have to cry 13 times. You have to see the take 13 times. So I'm sure it's harder for them, but at the same time, I think a movie, as I said, just changes you in its own way, and I actually look forward to that process. I don't want to hold back. If I'm feeling that the film is doing something to me, I actually want to feel it. I want to let it happen to me. And yes, sometimes it gets very stressful. Sometimes you feel the weight. Sometimes you actually I feel the most weight when I'm writing it, because that's when you're really living it for the first time. You are in it for the first time. Then you've lived it, you've written it a few times, you've had other people read it a few times. By then you're becoming more objective in a way, because other people are doing it. So the most subjective experience as a writer director would be when you're writing it. So you cry when you write a great scene, in terms of emotional scene. You feel the tension when you're writing a tension scene, and you write feeling it better. So you're listening to music, you're walking up and down a room. That's real for me. Like that's the time when I'm actually living it.
That's also the joy of filmmaking, what you spoke. That's where you feel it. You live through a whole world in your own head.
Yeah, and then what happens is, as you direct it, the logistics come into play, right? Then it's you need the crew and the camera and the location, and you need 2 takes by this time. You're gonna break for lunch. So then it's the logistics and execution of it. So I can't live it so closely. In fact, I'm watching others live it in that way. Directors, actually, that's what you're doing. You're making sure you're seeing the others and like, oh yeah, that feels real. That feels real. She felt that. That feels good. But you've actually kind of lived it a little bit before others have. And with your earphones on, heard the music. I mean, I have great ecstatic moments when I'm working with writers, and when I'm in the edit sometimes. That's when I get really charged. Like I'll walk up and down, and if I feel excited, I'll just play some music. Just start to dance sometimes. Like those things are pretty amazing.
What are you trying to do, like in your life, in terms of other than films? Like what's it all leading up to? Or are you just enjoying one film at a time? Because I'm sure you are.
Yeah.
Comes through in your cinema. But what's your inner why, man?
The why is to know that I want to kind of just follow and evolve, so to say. I want to evolve my storytelling. I definitely want to tell better stories. I want to, if I can, in whatever little way, I want to shift the needle of storytelling. That's why I want to do more layered, more nuanced, more sophisticated storytelling, because I feel we've kind of, we've made such interesting, progressive stuff over the years. And I feel like last decade or so, people are, there are lesser and lesser people with their own voice, and I feel like I know younger talent, and I'm sure you know younger talent, is they just need someone where they can like, oh yeah, we can also do this, we can try this, and I want to shift that needle. I want to, as I get into a position of some kind of influence, uh, I want to bring that talent to the forefront. I want them to come and change the storytelling.
Like as directors?
Yes, as anything, man. I feel like the word director for me is changing its meaning. I feel uh, I am more and more for collaboration and bringing more voices to come together. Even on this film, yes, you're called a director and you get the first credit, but I can't see this film without 5 or 6 people who've been with me on it, and I would say, in some ways, they have equal ownership. They have brought so much to the thing. So I think, yes, we still have the conventional credit system, and in some way you are the gatekeeper for the vision or the storytelling, and you have the final say. But what everyone brings to the project is immensely valuable, and you have to know that you couldn't have done it. To say that if he wasn't there you could have done it is completely wrong. You couldn't have done it. And I'm also, somebody who's looked up to amazing directors who come from the art war theory, which means that it's single man's vision, the Kurosawa and all of that. The art was there. It's a single man's vision where everyone comes in to help that person, and I get that. But I am actually starting to feel, you have a vision, and the way I want to work is you open up that vision for others to contribute, and that vision then evolves into something bigger and better. So as I said, it's a more collaborative effort, and as weird as it may sound, like when now I see it's Rohit Shetty calls it directed by Rohit Shetty team or stuff like that, I'm like, oh, he's doing something which is right. It's we make completely the opposite kind of films, but I can see that there is respect for people who work with him, and I think that's amazing, and that's why I love the idea of collectives, artists coming together. I feel like it's going to change, movies going to change. They don't have to still be so, the same old conventional hierarchy that we have. I think that would change over time.
What's it like working in Bollywood? Like, what's the vibe? If you had to explain it to
I-
non-Bollywood folks, like, what's the vibe of existing in that world?
Dude, I've been so fortunate, right? I've had the best of Bollywood in terms of the kind of people I've had. I've to be honest, for the longest time, I've stopped looking at it as an outsider. That, oh, this is Bollywood. I can't. I am.
What's your parents' background?
Nothing to do with film. In fact, they don't watch film. So mine are the only film that they have to sit through, and that I'm telling you, sit through, because actually they wouldn't want to watch this either. If this didn't have my name on it, they would not even sit through this. So they take a nap in the afternoon to watch it in the evening because they'll fall asleep. And my sisters, they both love films, so they are extremely excited. But what's really funny is that 3 days ago I had to go to the Kapil Sharma show. And I thought that got them more excited than the idea that I've actually made a film over 2 years. And they're like, oh, movie make. And like, Kapil, you're going to Kapil Sharma show? And I'm like, yeah, but I also made a film.
What's the experience of Kapil Sharma show?
Oh, man. So listen, I honestly, I hadn't really followed the whole show. And I'd heard it was funny, and people are like, oh, lowbrow and whatever. I don't care. The thing is, I'd been shooting for the last, whatever, year and a half, been trying to finish this film, and I've had all this kind of weight. And what I'd done is I just delivered the film like 4 days ago, and then the next day I was feeling like, oh shit, like I was still waking up with the weight of the film. I went there with literally no expectations, and then I started to laugh, and then I started to just laugh more. And by the end of it, I realized I'd forgotten about my film. Also, it's Kapil's show. He wasn't really talking about the film. We were talking. He was doing his skits. He was doing his thing. So I forgot about the film. And for the first time in a year and a half, I think those 2 hours I forgot about the film, and I was just laughing. And when I left that place, I was like, dude, I'd pay to be in the audience to just watch this, because when I went home, I slept and I woke up at 10 the next morning, which hadn't happened for 2 years. I've been waking up at 6:37 with the whole anxiety of making a film. So yeah, I think in some way he healed me that night with his humor. I mean, I genuinely don't know how funny it would be when it comes out, but as I said, I think I just tuned into it, and I was telling Ananya and Deepika that I feel like maybe there was something in the air. Maybe they, like how in casinos they pump oxygen in the air to you for you to keep up. Maybe they put like helium or something. I don't know. I was tripping. I was having a great time. So yeah.
I'd gone for a meditation seminar once where they made us do this laughing meditation.
Who?
There's this one course I'd done. It was a Reiki course and it's a 3-day seminar. And the second day, they just make you close your eyes and they begin a tape with like monkeys laughing. Then the instructor starts laughing. And if you're really in sync with it, because it's a guided meditation, even you start laughing. And everyone just laughs for like an hour.
Wow.
So laughing is one of those things that spreads.
Yeah.
But speaking about this man, Kapil Sharma, dude, media industry, because I have so much respect for everything he's built out.
Yeah.
Like, how do you build something like that? How do you sustain for like more than 10 years?
Yeah.
What's his vibe like? Like when you see him up close, when you see him doing his thing,
Yeah.
what's he like in his flow?
I think what's so fascinating is that there's a lot of thought that has gone into it, even though it feels so impromptu and on the go. You realize that he there is a structure in his which is very clearly drawn out on the page. So as fluid as it seems, you realize that his humor, there's a lot of effort to make it that fluid. There's a lot of prep that has gone in for them to be able to improvise. And that's what I've always felt, even about acting.
What do you mean? What do you mean prep for them to improvise?
I think improvise as a term is taken extremely lightly, even in films, and that's something I even picked up when Scorsese speaks about Taxi Driver and how everyone thinks it's an improvised film and De Niro improvised, but what it needs is for you to do all the hard work beforehand. So you have a blueprint, you've done the groundwork. So on the day, you don't have to feel that pressure. And then on the day, you have the freedom to explore. And that's exactly how I feel about on-set acting, which is unless you haven't done the read, if you've not done the readings, if you've not done the groundwork of who are these characters, what are they really going for in this scene, how you feel about what's the energy of this scene, how does it need to feel. Once you've done all the groundwork, then on the day, you have lot more scope because you know one version of it that you've already prepped. So then you're like, I know this. And I know I have an hour. So let's try it this way. Oh, where do you want to be? You want to stand there? Let's try it that way. Oh, the camera doesn't have to do this. Let's try it here. Because you've done all the prep. It's not that you're doing it because you don't know what it is. You're doing it because you know one version of it already. So now you're like, let's try the other one. Let's try the other one,
Would you say this same thing is this guy's strength, Kapil Sharma's strength, that he's always prepared?
Yeah, I think is extremely prepped and there's, as I said, a structure for him to know that the flow is going to work.
But how do you become funny within structure? That's talent? Is that God-gifted talent according to you?
I think if you didn't have structure, you wouldn't be able to stay funny for long enough because at some point it starts to go off. Okay. And that's the same thing. I think he's aware, and I do the same on set sometimes, which is he's aware if he shoots 10 things, 2 will not work. So that's part of the structure, right? And the same thing when you're shooting a montage in films, which is like 10 or 12 moments that come together to make you feel something. I always time, and I'm like, oh, if in 90 seconds I'll need 5 moments, I'll always shoot 8. Because when you sit on the edit, 3 will not work. Just the way we'll do this podcast, and at some point there'll be a dull moment and you have to know where to cut out.
There's no dull moments with you, Mr. Batra.
Only unless you start taking your shirt off and like do something. I don't know where this is going.
No. Gotta ask you some spicy questions as well.
Ooh, bruh. I got no spicy answers, just to tell you that. Don't get me into trouble.
No.
Film's not out yet.
No. This ain't Coffee with Karan.
Oh, no, I get it.
Mr. Batra, I've been traveling a lot across India, and one thing I've noticed is that when you grow up in Bombay, you don't put film stars on a pedestal as much as the rest of the country does.
Right.
But you travel anywhere else and you realize, okay, these
yeah.
people are on a pedestal. Their reality is different,
Bro,
man.
My family, my sisters, my cousins, man, I think they get even with small things, they can't believe that I'm so
close.
and so I'm so okay about it. Like, for them, for so many people, it's a dream. You're living in a dream world.
Yeah. But what's it like on the inside? Like, I know you're tight with some of the top film stars. Feel free to drop names. What are they like as people? You can take
Dude,
names.
here's the thing. And sure, I have some close friends. I've made some very close friends. And the one thing you realize once you start making films is that they all just want to make a better film. They all just want to do their work right. They're all
Artists.
extremely disciplined. Deepika is extremely disciplined. She almost, works like a sports person. She has a routine. She'll make sure she's done those things. She's read a line. So the thing is, there is a lot of glam. The world that you see on the TV or when you read about in a magazine or Instagram, for me, that's just the projection of it. And that's what we are seeing. So we think this is their life, this is what they do. But actually that's the 1% of their life that we are watching. And that's where also I feel scared of. Because a lot of people, when you meet them, just like entrepreneurs, if you just see the money and Instagram pages, like, dude, I want to have a startup, I want to run a startup, right? But I think filmmaking is like a startup.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a lot of projection of like the gloss of it. When you're putting a movie out, it's all about promotions. Everyone's wearing great clothes. You're on TV. You are coming in these fancy cars, but your regular day is actually really hectic and hard, and there is no gloss to it. There's no gloss to showing up on a set at 6:30, running, to kind of make sure things happens, running late on shots, breaking for a quick 20-minute lunch break, getting back. There is no gloss there. So the thing is, when a lot of people come in chasing the gloss and then working and realizing, oh, the gloss is not going to happen in the next 6 months, 1 year. Gloss may happen over 2 years or 3 years, and that also for such a short time, they get shaken, and their dreams get broken.
What I hear you saying is that the people at the top are deeply disciplined. And by people at the top, I mean yourself, directors, the actors who made it big. Discipline is like the underlying factor.
Yeah.
And this is all I've heard about Deepika, that discipline is the reason she is where she is.
I feel anybody who's successful, whether it's in this industry or outside, they have a process that they trust. They have a structure to how they work.
System.
And I can talk about my mentor in that way, Karan, who I have seen very closely. I was an assistant. I worked with Farhan before that. I've worked with multiple directors over the films. And I can tell you one thing that stays consistent. And they can be completely different people, night people, day people, party people, completely, so to say, introverted people. But what stays is that they are dedicating time to their craft, and they're dedicating time to. They have very clear goals. They have very clear process to get to that goal, and they're working towards that. And I think that never changes. So for me, I've realized that the only and thankfully that's also given me clarity that as I said, I'm here for storytelling. I'm here for making better films. So I need to make sure that I'm dedicating time to that. Sure, when your promotions are going on, there's you're doing media interviews and you're doing whatever, your Instagram page is suddenly very active, but that's not reality, man. That's the reality you create because so to say, it works, and it brings people in, and you need people to come in. But that's not the reality of making the film. That's a reality of selling or marketing a film, and it's a very short-lived reality.
Since you are close to Deepika, okay, as a friend, what would you say is her strength though?
I think detachment. I think there's a reason she lives in Prabhadevi, and she tells me this, like she wanted to make sure she doesn't get lost in the noise of the industry. She wanted to maintain that perspective. And I think that's something that she's constantly looking forward to. She wants to maintain perspective. She surrounds herself with other friends who are from outside of the industry. Her family is really important to her. And because she constantly craves that detachment, So you can have a very real conversation, and she's two different. She knows when she is Deepika Padukone the star, and when she needs to, so to say, play that part, and when she needs to just be normal. And she you can see she can very easily cut out the stardom from her day-to-day life, where she just wants to chill, she wants to talk about normal things, and she's that way. She knows when to project the stardom and own the room, and she knows when to actually disappear. And for me, I think that managing to stay, and I think with all actors, this is what I believe, they have to at some level hold on to some idea of reality, because the people make you feel like you're outside of this reality, you are bigger and better. But what I've always found fascinating is something worked, your work looked great, but just the way the industry is structured, movies are structured, they put you on a pedestal. And then what happens is you have to start at some level believing that you're better than the others, that people love you so much. Because why else do you receive so much love unless you are special? So then you start selling that narrative to yourself. I'm special, I'm better, I'm doing this. And it depends how real you want to stay, or how much you want to give into that sense of self-esteem, which I think is a false self-esteem.
Yeah. We had a sick spiritual leader on the show. And from every podcast, I have like one learning usually, one key learning.
Sure.
From him, he spoke about how all forms of spiritual growth, therefore intellectual growth, therefore life growth,
Right.
are related to kind of erasing the ego. So if you think
Absolutely.
you have created something, or you have achieved something, or
Absolutely.
you are better,
Absolutely.
it's keeping you paused in that spiritual journey of self-discovery.
Absolutely.
So what do you think of this world that you described? You said where you're forced into believing the sense of me, I. What does it do to the reality of the person? What does it do to the soul of the person?
Well, star or no star, I think all of us are building a narrative in our heads. All of us believe that we are doing something, and yes, we are. We are making choices. You are building things, but this sense of attachment of me, and any spiritual growth is about letting go of the me, right? Is to realize that is the ego playing. And for me, it's not just the stars. For them, it's even harder, because it's not just them building this narrative, it's the entire machinery building the narrative for you, right? The Instagram building that narrative, the magazines are building that narrative, all interviews are building that narrative. So the narrative just keeps getting stronger and stronger. And then that's why you need a even more stronger sense of what you hold on to define your reality, so to say.
Dude, I think it's the same with any career that has fame as an attachment.
Absolutely.
Fame is at the forefront for actors. Fame is probably secondary for me. Fame is also secondary for an athlete, which brings me to the subject of Mason Greenwood. You heard what happened?
No.
So there used to be this footballer called Robin Van Persie about 10 years ago. Incredible striker. Okay, best left foot you'll ever see. If the ball touches his foot, you can expect that it's in the goal.
Right.
So there's this young kid who's I think about 19 years old. His name is Mason Greenwood, and he's supposed to be the second coming of Robin Van Persie. Huge career in front of him. He plays next to Ronaldo. He combines well with Ronaldo. When you see him play, you realize this kid has talent.
Right.
2 days ago, a girl uploaded footage and photos of her where she's like beaten up, and she uploaded a voice note where she said she's recorded them having a conversation, and she's like telling him to back off, and he's like, no, I'll come and hit you if you tell me to back off. I want to have sex with you right now.
Right.
And he beat her up.
Ouch.
Okay, now I'm sure that yes, there might be some childhood trauma acting up here even with him.
Sure.
That's the understanding.
Right.
But this is what fame can sometimes also accelerate. It accelerates your demons.
I think we as a society, especially the more we go into the metaverse and Instagram and building this idea of following and fame, we need to start training people to understand fame and understand the good and bad of fame, because fame is going to start becoming a very important part of just our culture.
Yeah.
We've never had so many windows of becoming famous before. And I feel Imran, my friend who did Jana Tu Ya Jane Na, and we were very young when he got his first hit of fame. We were 24, 25. He once said something extremely, what I consider really valuable to me. He said, fame is a disease. We just haven't explored it yet.
Yeah.
And I understand what he's trying to say. There is a level of it that can sit in your mind and start
100%.
eating into it and building this fake idea of it. And that's why, and I'm not saying negate it and detest it. No, just like any other emotion, it is something we need to understand.
Yeah.
But I also feel that people need to psychologists need to start understanding it at a broader level and actually putting in place checks and measures that one can take as you're on the journey to become famous. I don't think it's something you should avoid, but it's something you should tread on very carefully.
Yeah, in the age of social media where fame is so widespread, I think this is a very interesting concept that we should speak more about how to handle it.
Yeah.
There's a lot more famous people now than ever.
Yeah.
Coming back to Mason Greenwood, dude, this is a world-class career which has literally come to an end right now.
Wow.
At the age of 19. And that's the downside of fame, where
Yeah.
maybe you're meant to be something, but because you can't handle the fame, everything gets fucked up.
Yeah. And you're right, people are becoming famous at such an early age where they're not even equipped to handle it, right? And the repercussions of that we've seen in musicians who become very famous very early on. They don't know how to deal with that kind of attention or success and money. And the thing is, those things are great. They can provide so much comfort and also sometimes just purpose. But at the same time, they have a darker side to it. And I'm really actually very curious to kind of explore that because it's never before in so to say in near history that this has happened with so many people at such an early age.
Because you're a director, you're also kind of the boss on set. So if you see an actor acting up in terms of this concept we spoke about, if you see someone starting to get arrogant, do you go give them feedback?
Depends on my equation and depends on how much time is left on set with them. If I have just 2 days of shoot left, I know I can get work done. I would let go. But if I think it's affecting my shoot, if I think it's affecting what output I'm getting, if I think it's going to affect what my film's going to look like, then I do go and have that chat. And I've had that chat with some very senior actors where I've had that moment where and in the most respectful way, because I think everyone at some levels is aware when things are not going right and they're open for a conversation. And I've always, dude, listen, here's the thing. Anybody at this level when they're extremely, successful, there is an ego. But I think for me, the difference between great people who are successful is they know how to manage that ego. And if you go and sit next to them to have a conversation, and if you just lead in with the right intent, they're very quick to say, I get what you're saying. It just, you have to know, you have to be measured, you have to know when that conversation is needed and how you step into that conversation,
Speaking about conversations, do you remember the deep ass conversation we had in that hotel room?
Oh,
when there were other people in the hotel room with us.
I think we just switched to a different frequency, and we had a common friend Kavita who was also on the show with you at some point, and I remember it was a chill conversation, and then I feel like me just switched to a different frequency, and then I was like, oh, are we killing the vibe of this?
No. Do you remember that I gave you a hug at the end? Do you remember why I gave you a hug? You said something in specific.
I was talking about rain, the philosophy that I'd come across, and it had really helped me. I've always looked just like Ranveer, I think, on to consistently be on my spiritual journey. I think for me, everything kind of is to help you align yourself, all your work. And how do you accept things that are hard? How do you look at reality? And so you don't negate things, you don't ignore things, you accept them. All kind of emotions, even though they are emotions that you want to put away or suppress. I came across this book called Radical Acceptance and Radical Compassion. And I think Radical Compassion is a book by Tara Brach, who, so to say, is a spiritual teacher. And she spoke about rain as recognize, allow, investigate, nurture. So anything that you're feeling that you don't want to feel, anything that you want to avoid, anything you want to throw away, actually the first step is to recognize that you are feeling that and realize that you are trying to push away something. Once you recognize that you're trying to push away something, you allow for it to just stay. You don't push it away. And I think that's the second step of rain. Recognize, allow for it to just be there. Don't detest it, don't push it away. And then once it starts to sit with you and you get comfortable with it just being there, it's not something you like or whatever, you're just comfortable as if it's an emotion sitting with you in the room. Then you investigate it. But you're investigating it from a place of being gentle. You're not judging yourself. You're just allowing it to stay there so you can look at it. You look at the different perspective of why it is. And nurture is to heal it. And you can only heal it when you accept it. And you accept that you're feeling this, even if it's an emotion that you don't want to feel, whether it's anger or jealousy or insecurity or the things that you would never want to believe that you are feeling. And so many times you feel that. You don't like somebody. And you hate yourself for not liking that person, so you start justifying why you hate that person and why does that person deserve your hate, or why does that person deserve your jealousy because he's like that, she's like that. So you justify it. The idea is to just forget that, recognize that you're feeling it, allow that emotions to stay, investigate why you are feeling this, and the nurture part is actually to work on yourself and not on the other, so that you can heal yourself of all the kind of entangled complexity that you're feeling, and just allow yourself to free yourself of that emotion. So for me, that's what we discussed, and that's really come handy, is to take a pause.
I thought about it a lot that day. And it took me to a conversation I had a year prior to that day with a friend of mine who taught me about the concept of creating distance between your thought and your perception.
That's meditation. All of meditation, right?
So it's basically the same concept where they say that you're not in control of your thoughts. Random thoughts will drop in your head. I won't be able to do this. I'll fail at this. I'll be in danger here. That's a thought which is automatic, but your perception is up to you. And meditation allows you to take that perception and bring it 2-3 steps back and observe your own thoughts like a third person.
And not always believe your thoughts. Not always buy into your thoughts. Thoughts are just going, and thoughts are coming from. There's so many things that are unattended in us, deep down, and our thoughts are coming from those places. Our fears, our insecurity, our desires, and they're all just throwing. So you have to be able to just watch them before you act upon them. So as you would know, it's always about, you have to respond, not react. And sometimes thoughts take you in this tailspin of reactions, which I try to avoid as much as I can.
There's a deeper level of neuroscience in terms of the N of rain, which is basically that once you've been able to create distance between your thoughts and your perception, the next step is that final step, execution. What do you actually do with the thought? So for example, say you're at home, you're with your parents, and one of your parents has said something that put you off. A version of you from 2-3 years ago would lash out at your parent. Because you sometimes take those relationships for granted.
And those are the triggers, right? Those are,
So you've noticed a trigger now. Neuroscience says that if you've been able to notice it and you consciously switch to another action, that no, instead of lashing out, I'm going to let it sit inside and I'm going to calmly communicate that please don't say that, it hurts me.
There's a book called Non-Violent Communication that gives you step-by-step way of talking back to somebody when you feel that triggered. And it's beautiful. I thoroughly enjoyed that book. And I know you are quite deep into these ideas, so I think you'll really enjoy it too.
Also, I'm deep into neuroscience. That's my new subject of fascination.
And I think those are the things actually really excite me about things becoming more and more accessible for day-to-day people because of YouTube, right? You can watch something like this and be like, oh, I get it. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars on therapy to arrive at this anymore. You can watch a lot of stuff. If you can just sit with yourself every day for half an hour, 40 minutes, you can work so much on yourself,
I also want to again highlight neuroplasticity, which is the brain's ability to mold itself as you go forward in life. So if you put your brain through situations like that, where you're executing on your thoughts, changing your action, over time, that process of changing your action becomes much easier, and your distance between your thought and your perception
becomes
becomes
Atomic
easier.
Habits here. I mean, that's really about that, right? It's about making the smaller changes day to day, and then that has compounded effect on your behavior. I completely get that. Totally, 100%.
I also feel the older you get as a person, you start noticing it in yourself more, in your friends more. Jaane Tu Ya Jaane Na. It was such an important film for me, dude.
And Laksh, you mentioned that 100 times.
Laksh.
Yeah.
Laksh is my film. Jaane Tu Ya Jaane Na taught me things about love, man. You worked on that's a cult classic. Like
I'm extremely embarrassed to tell you that when we were making that film, I had no expectations. I was like, what are we doing? There's a kid on a horse riding through Bombay streets. This is absolutely outside of reality. How would anyone ever understand this film? Cut to, I couldn't get tickets for my family on the weekend. And I was like, are people really watching this?
Yeah.
You know? And then I realized how it connected and what it did to the audiences, you know?
it did a lot to people about my age, early 90s kids.
Sure.
I remember being in the theater during Kahin To,
I know.
during that song, dude, I wept for the first time in a movie. As a toxically masculine 14-year-old, I was crying thinking about the girl I liked. And I was like, yo, this movie's gonna stay with me for a
Oh,
bit.
sweet, sweet. Man.
You're the Pappu in the Pappu dance.
Well, you know, everyone makes mistakes. What can I say, man? I mean, I should just get a tattoo saying I made a mistake. Well, I didn't make a mistake. Honestly, it was such a fun experience. We were a bunch of friends making that film. We were in Alibag. It's so funny. We were in Alibag and we didn't have enough actors. So Abbas, the director, just looked at me and said, "We'll just do this partner. I mean, in just one Pappu, nobody." And I at that time, even though it was obviously Mr. Rahman who'd done the music, in my head I was like, "What is this track? Pappu can't dance, and who's ever going to listen to this track?" So I stood up there and did it, and cut to it became a film everyone watched. And you won't believe, a teacher of mine called me from school. They thought I was trying to become an actor, and I was struggling in Bombay trying to act. And a teacher of mine from school messaged me on Facebook saying, "It is okay. It is okay. People start like this. Don't worry. People will see you. Even though this is a very small part, maybe somebody will recognize you one day." And I felt like, how do I explain to you? I'm trying to be a director, not an actor. So it was, and it's so funny because even when I was directing my first film, you would be directing some actors you're meeting for the first time, or few new people on set, and they'll be like, "Oh, you're that guy, you're Pappu." And you're like, okay, they're never gonna take me seriously. They're never gonna take me seriously. I've grown a beard. But I think it's still I've not managed to get that image out of people's mind.
But what does it feel like when you see something you worked on become a cult classic? I'd even say the same for Kapoor and Sons, dude. Did you realize what you were building when you were doing
Of course
that?
not. I had no clue. I mean, I was so surprised.
What's the story there?
Story where?
With Kapoor and Sons, what's the story? Like, why did you want to do that film?
Well, I just the way I want to do any film I want to do. I want to tell a story that means something to me, and hopefully it's not conventional and it's not something that's assembly line product. It's not run of the mill. It's trying to do something different. I was, as I said, with Kapoor and Sons, I was kind of bored with the idea of how we've showcased families in Indian films for a long time, and I was like, I don't feel like that. Why don't we try something which feels more authentic to me? Same thing with Gehraiyaan is like, as I said, an oversimplified idea of love that we've been seeing for so long. But we've had not better, but I have nothing against a romanticized idea of love. But I think it's been a while since you've seen Lamhe, or a movie like Arth, Silsila, where are those kind of films? And listen, even look at something like Devdas. For the time when it was written, it's an extremely complex story. It's not a straightforward piece of love. These are complex characters going through messy situations, and they were accepted in mainstream, and they're huge. So I was like, those emotions connected, those kind of stories connected. They're kind of missing for a while, and it was just time to maybe bring them back into conversation. So yeah, that's the starting point for me. Is like, I feel that this has been a kind of a place where we haven't explored. So let's go and see if there's something to try here.
What did that film do to you though? Because it made a lot of families feel naked while watching it. Kapoor and Sons.
Yeah.
You watching, you were like, oh shit, this shit happens in my family as well. So like, what did it do for you, man?
Well, every film, as I was saying early, what you look forward to is what a film does to you actually more than what you're making.
In the long term.
In the long term. And I think every film, mostly in the writing stage, not always in the directing stage, heals you a little bit. Because somewhere, something that you've been holding on, feeling, you do put in the film. You dramatize it, you fictionalize it. Whether it's with Gehraiyaan, it's my own struggle or my own morality of how my struggle with the idea of morality and monogamy and infidelity.
More right versus less right, more wrong versus less wrong.
And being able to not know which side of the line I should be at and what should I feel about it. And to be honest, I don't have an answer, and I'm not taking responsibility for giving an answer. But I think it's Gehraiyaan for me is a movie that leaves you at a question and let you kind of interpret it and find an answer for yourself. So in that way, I'm really keen to see how it interacts with the audiences. Because I feel now that's something I'm really enjoying about storytelling, is not to, do a nice little bow tie in the end, but to be like, hopefully take people on a journey and leave them at a question where they're like, oh, I got to do the thinking now, and can we do that to audiences today? That's for me is very fascinating.
Dude, as a director, are you also selling the film to audiences? In some ways, right? Like you're deciding the trailer, you're deciding...
Oh, 100%. And this time I'm also, a co-producer. So for me, I've been really excited about like, how do we package this? How do we market this?
What does that mean? Like when someone is a producer in Bollywood, what does it really mean?
Well, it has manifold, ways of looking at it. Obviously, in the conventional sense, is the guy who's bringing in the money. But now that's not the case. I think it's somebody who's building IP, just the way you are, right? You're building an idea, and you're going to execute it. You want to make sure you take responsibility for it to arrive at a consumer in a way where it'll get us maximum. You will feel most satisfied when you arrive at it. Let me rephrase that.
So can I say that the money comes from financiers nowadays, but a producer, modern day producer, is sort of responsible for the creative vision, gets people together, gives inputs to the director, which is you yourself in this case.
But for me, Karan's and Apurva, who are the actual, so to say, conventional producers, how you would look at it, they're also my mentors. So in a way, it's in their own way helping us get trained so that we can do more of it. And as I said, we want to whatever I've learned from Karan, I've learned tremendously from him. I want to make sure that I also pass on and I can nurture other people just the way he's nurtured us. So it's kind of a chain of expanding and growing together. So I think it's a little bit of that. I've always felt like credits beyond a certain point are just formalities. We all work because we want to tell a story. I would still be involved with marketing and putting a package together because I'm excited about how people are going to receive my film. Yes, so now you have a credit. I'm extremely thankful for that. And being able to know that you have an ownership of what you've built.
Yeah.
Those are extremely rewarding and gratifying things. But you're going to still do everything you need to make sure that this story connects, and you have to prepare the audience. It's people. You think if you have a good film and you do no prep, it may still connect, but sometimes a movie you need to set the lens for the audience. You need to give them a sense of tone, mood before they step in, so that they can enjoy it more. They can already come with a little more connect with the film. Yeah. So, those things are extremely crucial.
I have a sales input here. Again, I'm a salesperson. I'm a digital entrepreneur. I'm a YouTuber. The way I look at selling a film from the outside, I feel like digital selling is at the forefront. Like you market through Instagram, you market through, say, Deepika's Instagram or Sid's Instagram or whoever, Ananya's Instagram. But there are deeper layers to it where, because of COVID, behaviors got accelerated.
Absolutely.
So now the average consumer, people who are listening to this podcast, people who are using social media, want to know about, say, the actors or the director. in terms of who they are as people. Who are they behind the glitz and
Right.
glam?
Right.
It's actually a selfish question to you.
Yeah, go
But
for it.
still, why have we not been able to get more actors on this show? Because personally, I feel like this show is a great medium to unleash
Right.
modern day marketing.
Right.
But for some reason, we do struggle with like getting people on board easily. Like, as in, we have to
I
chase
get it.
them and all.
I get
So I
it.
understand it's some old school machinery which is at play. But
Absolutely.
how do I shift that?
See, first of all, I think especially with this film, and because we are coming out of COVID, I was very sure that our digital presence means everything for marketing. So if you see, we are doing a lot more reel-oriented stuff. If you see the first teaser I put out, it's vertical format. I did not put out a motion poster because everyone's doing it. And I was like, why motion poster if you can actually put the motion? Why are we doing this? So when we were going to do a title release, I worked with my team on a vertical teaser.
That's where the question came from.
Yes, and I after that realized how much more that travels, and then if you see all our marketing, so to say, is encouraging more reel sharing behavior, because we see how much people consume it, we see how much more people it engages the audience, they make more reels.
The song, bro.
Absolutely. So the moment I realized from the teaser how quickly that turned into engaging the audience and making them participate, today you are no more doing a passive marketing unless you are involving people, unless you're engaging them and getting them to interact with the material you're putting out. There is no fun. So yes, I am completely with you. Whereas I think the way we promote movies, the way we interact with audience is going to change drastically in the next 2 or 3 years.
It has changed, I feel. Again,
Yeah.
I'm coming from a place of being within the digital ecosystem, and we study our comment sections.
Yeah.
People love it when stars open up. But stars, for some reason, even when we get them on the show, not everybody opens up because they have that layer of, no, what will happen if I step there? I think what will happen is that your brand will grow even further.
100%. I think there may be some reservation to make that shift, and that's why you can see that even when they're making that shift, they rather control that on their own. So their Instagram page, a lot of stuff that they are coming, because it's still within control. And you're right, there isn't a machinery that have done their math, and they have a priority. Marketing campaign generally lasts 2 or 3 weeks. They have allotted that time a certain way, but I know that things are about to change, and these are the things that live on the internet for
Forever.
much longer
Yeah.
than just like earlier, like a magazine interview. That magazine will get lost and nobody will ever read that. But I think these things survive.
Yeah, there's these pages like Not Viral and Bollywood shit posts.
I love both those pages and a big shout out. So I messaged both of them. I trip on that shit.
Yeah, same.
I trip on that. It makes me laugh. It makes me crack up. In fact, Bollywood shit posting is somebody I reached out to, and I was like, listen, I think we should do something together for the marketing of this film, because he finds these insane little clips from movies that you will never believe existed.
Yeah.
And I thought that'd be nice to kind of showcase how infidelity has changed in Hindi films over the years.
Yeah.
And he knows where those clips are, So I'm very keen to kind of trying something with him on that.
If you go a little deeper into those pages, you see a lot of these old early 90s, late 80s interviews, which have actually stood the test of
I
time.
love them, because there is one interview, I won't name the gentleman, who's like, we are so progressive now. We are just looking at Korean DVDs. We are looking at these. And I go to directors and tell them, here, take this, make this. And he's talking about it from a point of view of being progressive. And it's so funny. You laugh your ass off. You're like, dude, well, this lived on the internet now. So I guess,
But anyway, coming back to the selfishness of this question, I'm waiting for Bollywood to understand the power that these kind of formats hold, one. And two, you guys, like the people at the top, are fantastic to work with and speak to and interact with.
Right.
But it's the layers of management that make it difficult for the digital world to connect with Bollywood. And that's the general chatter in the digital world, where all of us are entrepreneurs. We're building our own audiences. We're building our own brands. We're catching on to this vacuum that's been built in India. And it's the management that's not allowing the people at the top in Bollywood to actually grab onto those vacuums.
But I also think that there are people who are going beyond just their management, because they can see that something like this is working, I mean, at the end of the day, on the internet, when you're doing something, the numbers are there for people to see, viewership for something that you put out, the following that you have. I think it's only a matter of time as people start taking that all the more seriously, because if you're going to do an interview that's reach is going to be, let's say, let's say 1 million views, and then you see a podcast that is doing the same,
Yeah.
and it's reaching maybe your TG more clearly.
Yeah,
And I think those things will play out. And as I said, I don't think it's going to be a long journey to that. I think it's almost starting to happen.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, bro. So a lot of stars, when they sit in front of us, they assume that it's an interview, which it is. But a
Yeah.
podcast is a two-way thing. It's a conversation.
Yeah.
So sometimes
That's so much better than an interview, because interview becomes same, boring, sometimes same questions, right?
same, sometimes offensive questions, dude. I'm not interested in offending you. If you were partying with me, I would want to sit and still just have this same conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it. You and I don't have to do it on the mic. We can still do it outside. And the thing is, now we are having this fun conversation, and hopefully there's still some takeaway from it.
Yeah, 100%. No, trust me, there's deep takeaways because every industry needs to evolve to like really stay on top. And I'll give you one very upfront narrative about Bollywood in the digital space. Because of everything that happened in the last 2 years, be it the whole Sushant Singh case, be it general chatter,
Right.
related to say narcotics or whatever, there has been a little negative vibe created in the youth of the country. This won't affect Bollywood business,
Right.
but it does affect Bollywood branding in the long term. And little young kids like 7, 8 years old, they'll think of looking at digital spaces as the actual heroic avenue. Like they interviewed kids in the US about what they want to be when they grew up.
They want to be social influencers.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and it shifted from musician or
Yeah.
Hollywood
Yeah.
to this.
Right.
And I'm not like saying that this is where the world is going immediately. It'll happen in 10 to 20 years. But this is what I feel Bollywood needs to come out there and take its mask off. And there are some incredible human beings
Right,
out
right,
there.
right.
Be it Karan, be it
Right.
all the actors we named.
Right.
This conversation is showcasing off that. It's about who you are on the inside. What created a Shakun Batra? That's what people wish to know.
Right.
But it's sometimes so difficult for us being at that kind of, what's it called, line between digital and Bollywood. So Viraj and me, my co-founder, who you've met, sometimes we just look at each other because of the responses we get or because of how people behave. And we're like, really, like our world is like so much more just relaxed and easygoing. Like, why not just connect as human
No,
beings?
I listen.
And I'm not blaming you or
listen,
like
I
Bollywood.
get it. I'm the smallest, kid on the block, and definitely from nowhere I can represent the whole of Bollywood. I think I can only talk for myself and for maybe a couple of people that I know closely. They are excited. It's changing. I think you're right. There's a machinery, and there is sometimes a certain management that's thinking more conventional, but it's only a matter of time, man.
Yeah. Also, often the management really enjoys being around stars, so they use it as a bit of a status symbol in these equations. That no, I'm XYZ's manager.
Yeah, I love. I have some very close friends who are also agents and managers, but I have to say sometimes it's so funny because there is a very clear sense of power that's coming from the source, but you're not the source. You're just the channel. But it's funny because when you take that power so seriously that you feel you are powerful, that's when you look at that person and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
If you just remove that one little equation, nothing holds. It all just goes back, And I feel power is a funny thing, just like fame.
100%. Power is one of those concepts I've been thinking about a lot.
I thought a lot about the idea of power, and it's again one of those things that you're right. People have to understand it.
Without
Because people
dropping
are chasing it.
Without dropping names, could you give us like an anecdote from Bollywood which kind of gives you an input into your angle of power?
Nothing comes top of my mind like that. But I'll tell. I mean, here's the thing: when you are directing, you can demand things that people will make sure that happens, and you have power over hiring and firing and making someone's day bad. Let's talk about that. Like you have the power to speak to somebody in a certain way which would make his day worse, right? Just that's a very small idea of it. Just the way a person can talk to his team. It comes from a place of power and hierarchy. For me, what's really important is to use power to enable and not make someone feel small. And one thing that again, one of the Zen things that I read about, which I loved, is that the moment you receive power, it's your duty to forward it to others. That is, you have to delegate it, because if you it's a moving energy in that way. If you sit on the energy of just feeling powerful, it kind of corrupts you. That's where ego starts to build. So the moment you feel you're in a place and position, as I said, of influence or power, it's your job to make sure you share that with others who you consider responsible. And then you have to kind of measure and keep checks to make sure that what you're doing is distributing that power to others, so that that kind of flows. And once you understand that energy as a flow of things, you're just a channel of it. You're not really somebody who's sitting on a chair to take decisions. You're like, oh, I have this power, and I know these 4 people will do the right thing, so you move it on to them. And
Crazy. I've never heard anyone say that. Another rain moment for me. This is
Yeah,
honestly
okay.
like, this is so crazy. You keep power in motion. You give it down.
It's not an energy you sit on. It just I feel that about money. I feel that about power. I feel that about influence.
And in fact, by keeping it moving, it'll increase for you as well.
Oh, 100%.
Because if the people working with you get more and more powerful,
Yeah.
your
I
team's getting more
think
powerful.
I think we have all looked at growth in as a zero sum game, that for you to grow, somebody else has to stay there. I think we've looked at too many things in life, the way we've been brought up, as win or lose. But I think as we evolve, as we see more people, you realize it's not a zero sum game.
Yeah.
Actually, you cannot grow beyond a certain point unless the people with you grow. So it becomes your duty after a certain point, and I've seen that with Karan, how he's mentored people. It becomes your duty to make sure everyone comes and grows. And if you've been lucky enough to have certain experience, which I've had, as you said, I'm in Bollywood, I'm with the people that you would dream to be with. It becomes at some level your responsibility to make sure you also bring others to a level where they can have these experiences. Because otherwise it becomes us versus them. Oh, he has it, I don't. But if they can see, oh no, he has it, but now I know that he will take us also in that direction, then I think we can go beyond, we can explore more, and those things.
What's it like having Karan Johar as a mentor?
Oh man, it's tough. It's tough for me to like even bring it down to all the all the great things that have happened to me because of him. Just I was a 26-7 year old kid when I met him with an idea, and for him to put his trust and money and be like, yeah, you go make a film.
What was your idea?
Ek Main Ek to my first film.
Okay.
The script went to him, and for him to be like, you go make that film, trust me, let me do what I want, see the film, like it, and be like, okay, now go make another one. And and then he's really mentored me by just letting me. This is the difference between mentors and just another boss. Mentors allow you room to make mistakes and learn from them, and tell you that they are there when you make a mistake. Boss just wants to make sure he harnesses your energy for his success. And I think that's where Karan's different. He allows you the time and space for you to grow and learn from your mistakes.
In the world of business, we say that this is the difference between leaders and managers.
Yeah.
Leaders create more leaders. Managers just enjoy sitting on the power.
Yeah, and leaders also have a vision. Manager don't necessarily have a clean vision. They are borrowing someone else's vision and working towards that. And I love those things. I love the differentiation between, so to say, leaders, vision, and leaders also help you grow, help you stay motivated, and those things. And I feel like that's what I love, and that's really where you can make a change. Not from a managerial point of view. Those changes are smaller. They're executional changes. They're not going to change someone's life.
Yeah. Why is Karan Johar where he is today? Like, what's got him there?
I think obviously, apart from being extremely sharp and always trying to make sure he's aware and on top of this game. Apart from all of that, I think he gives back, he nurtures, he helps people grow, and I think he really believes in building relationships. that's really where what's at the center of dharma, or what's current philosophy is. He really cares about relationship. He really cares about people growing together, and those are the things that have really, I think, for me, I've taken away from his working style. He'll always value relationship over money. We've shot this film during COVID. So many things went up and down. The budgets changed. He understands all of that. He's absolutely open to kind of accepting those things and knowing that it's fine. It's part of doing making a film.
I always had this question for Karan and Rohit Shetty because I've been in rooms with them and I've seen how the whole room gravitates towards them.
Right.
And I can only imagine what it's like when, say, they're surrounded by upcoming people from their own industries with the kind of inflow of people who want to get a piece of their power or want something from them or just want humble, innocent advice.
Yeah.
But it's so much of an inflow.
Yeah.
So I wonder what that reality is like, where you have so many people gravitating towards you.
I mean, it's insane. I think I would get so exhausted with what Karan does. I don't think I have that. I think you have to have a different kind of an aptitude and stamina to be able to give like that. And I think then giving and channeling energy becomes your most important part of your job.
Also sensing energies.
And sensing energies. And Karan's phenomenal at that. You can enter his room, and in the first 10 minutes, he kind of knows. And he says that about, like, funnily, I was talking to him, and he said, the first time I met you, and of a couple of other directors he met, he said, I instantly knew that you're going to direct a film for Dharma, and you're going to be with us for a while. And it's just him, and it's just his intuition. And I think he somehow really listens to his gut. And that itself is a talent, especially in an industry that's full of noise, full of people constantly telling you what's right, what's wrong, what could work, what could not work. I think he still managed to stay true to what his gut says.
This noise of the industry concept, you brought this up the second time on the show, and I've had to actually ask you about this. What does it mean, dude? Again, and that's that angle of what's it like when you're inside the industry, where you are especially. What does noise of the industry mean?
Also, I just want to keep saying you are at the top of the food chain. I'm not that guy. I'm in the rooms with the big guys, and I'm in the room with people who are extremely successful and have proven themselves. Dude, I'm 3 movies old. I just have to have the privilege of being around these people. I do not consider myself remotely close to people who've been there for decades and who've consistently proven themselves. So I'm feeling a lot of weight, and I'm feeling like, am I faking it?
No, that's not how people look at you, bro. Like,
I don't
people
know.
look at you as, dude, this guy is way too talented, and you're kind of like a young Scorsese type figure. I'm not trying to like butter you up. Or
No, I get it. Listen, it's first of all too kind of you to say that. I don't want the weight of it. Genuinely, I don't want to feel the weight of it. I am very happy, kind of feeling like I'm still the observer in the room, and that's where I feel most comfortable.
Would you like to know more on that tangent? Because I'm sure somewhere in your heart you do, which is why I'm just going to tell you as a friend.
What?
That whole Scorsese angle, you bring a lot of Hollywood to your Bollywood, and that's
Yes.
where the industry is going.
Oh, definitely. No, that is something that I strive to bring, which is that I want the sensibility of how we make our films, or how we put out our stuff. I want this to get to a place where anywhere in the world people can see it and be like, yeah, they're with the times. I mean, look at the cinema from, Korean cinema. And we are one of the oldest, film industries in the world. And industries that have started 20 or 30 years ago have really come such a long way. Look at the quality that they are making. I think what we are doing is only doing cosmetic change. So we are doing great coloring to our film, so it all looks glossy and the costumes getting better and people are looking nicer. But the foundation of it is still very weak. And I'm really interested. I'm really interested in being able to just bring more and more people who I know want to make the change, who want to make better cinema, who want to, and there are people like that. I look up to, so many interesting people within our industry who are doing phenomenal work. I just think like more of us. And I have nothing against, as I said, dude, I have immense amount of respect for mainstream film because I think they increase the box office, and that gives us more room to play. But I think more of us can also exist, and of course, there is a need in Indian industry to kind of for an economic growth, but it doesn't have to happen at the cost of artistic value or artistic growth. We can artistically and economically grow together. So I feel like somehow there's this kind of understanding that to have more economic growth, we have to make more mainstream, dull down the sensibilities. It don't have to be intelligent films, and that's the one part that I'm not in agreement with. I think you need that stuff, but just like restaurants, you need every kind of restaurants. You need, a place with butter chicken and butter naan, but you also need, in today's time, you can have a sushi restaurant that'll do equally well.
Can I give you a business analogy? The first kind of cinema sells to inside India. The second kind of cinema, which is yours, sells to the world. And I just feel not enough Indians in both business or filmmaking have targeted the world as a market for their stuff until now. I think things are going to change in the next 5-10 years. In the same way that South cinema has gone national now, dude.
Right.
We know about South movies.
It's going beyond national.
Beyond
You
national.
look at the collection in the US for Telugu films, and you're like, wow, And down south, they're doing some phenomenal work. Not just and that's what I love about it. They're doing both. They're doing the big mainstream. They're doing Bahubali, and that's setting up the kind of the mainstream benchmark. But look at the Malayalam cinema. They are bringing such amazing new talent to the forefront. So you're like, wow.
Did you see the superhero movie, Meenal Murli?
No, I haven't seen anything for a year.
Okay.
I was just been in the midst of making my film, but I have a huge list to catch up to.
Coming back to the noise of Bollywood.
Noise of Bollywood is very loud.
What does that mean?
Well, I think especially the way this industry is, you don't just have the noise of the people around you, but have the noise of the audience because they are constantly giving opinion about what you are doing, right? You can be in amongst your friends. When you're a doctor or a lawyer, right? When you come back home, nobody's giving you their 2 bits on how you fought a case or how you treated a patient today. When you are in the movie business, everything you make, anywhere you go, they want to talk to you about it. And if they don't like it, they want to tell you they didn't like it, right? And that's why I also think that movie business is just a little harder than some of the other businesses, right? Because people feel, and they have an absolute right to tell you because you're making it for them, to tell you what they think. So what happens is when you're constantly hearing about the audiences, then somebody's telling you, oh, audience will not like it, so now you have this noise, and then you have your own clutter noise, which is telling you to do something. It's a place just full of voices, and then we live in our own echo chambers, right? Just like Instagram, you feel this is all that exists because
you surround yourself with yes men,
and the algorithm is doing that for you. It's making you feel. I mean, this is what's happening to me as I'm promoting the film. I'm sharing reels, and then people are making more reels, so I'm sharing those reels. And in the last 2 weeks, all I can see is just my own film on Instagram and more people talking about my own film. But is that the reality for somebody who's in another city who's not really following Bollywood? No, that's not his reality. And I feel what happens is you feel this is it. Everybody. And you have so many followers on actors' pages. They're 30 million, 40 million, 60 million. And you're like, oh, no, everybody's talking about this. And then at some point, when you're meditating or you detach and you're like, oh man, that's just a voice. It's just like that just been amplified. It's an amplified version. It's not really the whole reality. It's a very small fraction of reality. So for me, I'm looking forward to stepping away from the noise as soon as the film releases. I was telling you, I want to go back, just like you go into a place where I can meditate, go to a place where people have nothing to do with films, because I really can't live with so many voices, and I want that break. I want to detach. I want to know, and I want to believe, and I truly believe that Bollywood is an amazing place to tell stories, but it's not the end of the world. I have one life. I may not even make movies for my entire life. I love storytelling. I love making movies, but I think I don't want it to become the only thing that I feel drives me. I want to find other experiences. Maybe I one day go into teaching. Maybe I go into teaching storytelling. But you know, I I would like to try something more than where I like to do something, funnily enough, which is extremely quiet, and it's not a place where you have to make any noise for anything. You know,
I admire the out of you.
I'll be great if I can. I don't know. Maybe I'll get scared. I'm like, nobody's talking about what I'm doing, so maybe I quickly go back, make a film. You know, but that would be an intent. I'd love to try that.
That's been a question in my mind. This, can I just leave everything and go do nothing? And as of now, definitely the answer is no, because I will miss. I will miss the attention. I will miss the.
And right now we're in a different place in our life. We have to do this. We have to experience this. But I don't want. I would like to maybe step away when I feel like this is an addiction. Right now, I think it has purpose, and I'm doing it, and I know you are doing it with that purpose, with a certain goal and ambition, and that journey is going to be beautiful. And I just don't want to hold on to it in an unhealthy, toxic way, because as you said, fame, success, this industry, the noise, it feels great when it's all like, and I don't want to leave it out of fear, or that, oh no, now it's not going well, so let me get out.
Do actors know it's going to leave them someday?
Ooh, man, I can't answer on their behalf, but I feel like the loss of relevance in this industry must play on everyone's mind at some level, right? It's an industry that, as I said, puts you in a pedestal, makes you feel like you're the one in this moment, and then at some point, on a different Friday in a different year, shit works out differently for somebody else, and now they are that person, right? It's I think. That's why it's all the more important to be in this industry for the right reasons. If you're only chasing the position, only chasing the appreciation, I love appreciation, it's important when you're doing that work, but when you're only chasing that, then I'm sure at some level it's turning into insecurities and fear in your head.
Yeah. And you know, it can even turn into one small bag of insecurities and fear in your head. You might be in it for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
But somewhere you've got to get detached from this reason of enjoying relevance, enjoying the process. I mean, this is the kind of question I've been trying to answer for a very long time in terms of, will I be able to give up on...
I know. Ranveer, I think you have you're humble in many ways also, because I think you yourself have 2 million plus following. For someone your age to have that many eyes on you, I know you feel the noise. I know you feel the weight. I know you feel the pressure of staying relevant. The idea is, as we discussed, is to know that yes, those things are real, but to be able to deal with it in a healthy way. I think that's the question, right? I'm not saying that insecurities are bad, or you are only your greatest self when you don't feel those things. No, man. I think all of us are carrying a baggage of these things. And I'm sure even outside of this industry, people may carry that baggage. The idea is we all have to find a healthy way of dealing with all these problems, right? And I think that's really where it is.
Yeah. Also, staying in the present. And something along those lines is what I heard in a Snoop Dogg podcast.
Dude, I feel that's why I like podcasts more. It's like right now we are talking, and sometimes just looking at you, and I'm like, oh wow, I'm really truly here. You know.
That's the vibe. It also takes me some time to.
Also, we're in your meditation room, right? So maybe it is the place where you're feeling, oh, there is no rush, because I feel we've been chatting a lot.
Yeah, Mr. Batra, this is the moment where you tell me about your childhood traumas.
Do you say Mr. Batra as a joke, or like, 'cause nobody has ever called me Mr. Batra? I'm just like once, twice. I'm like, F that shit, just sounding too old.
So what went wrong in your childhood? Why are you addressing all these demons?
Bro, I heard somebody said that to me yesterday. He's like, this movie is really about messy things. What happened? And I got back to this joke that I don't know if you saw this movie Tootsie with Bill Murray and Dustin Hoffman. And I love this joke. There's a party going on at Dustin Hoffman's house, and Bill Murray's just finished a play, and he's talking to somebody. He's like, you know, man, I don't like when people come up to me and be like, I love your play. I like it when they call me the next morning and say, what happened?
That's a sign of good writing.
I love. I think I'm not more messed up than anybody else, I hope. I just, to be honest, I feel people sugarcoat a lot of things that have happened in their life and then put it out. And those kind of movies are great too. I really hope one day I can make the sweetest, nicest film that makes everyone feel the joy and love, and it feels like a big warm hug. But right now, maybe I'm a bit of a cynical,
No, sure.
maybe too realistic. And I'm on that journey where I wanted to portray things more closer to reality. But I really want to take my skill set to a place where I can be more healing, where I can be more of a warm hug for people.
No, I think you're already doing that, dude. Like, and even that darkness is a part of your skill set. So
Yeah, I say that. I feel like I love escapist movies as much as the other person, but sometimes revisiting reality can be so much more powerful, and that's what could heal you.
So, on the podcast that I saw with Snoop Dogg, Joe Rogan asked him, "How the have you been so relevant for
Yeah.
40 years?" And Snoop Dogg just says, "I just have fun doing this. I only do things that are fun for me." And I'm like, that's a great answer to deal
And
with
such
these.
a simple answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, it shifted a lot for me in terms that one statement changed this negative self-talk, the overthinking, future direction,
Right.
wanting a relationship. I'm like, no, let me just have fun doing these projects. If I chose projects that, will be
Yeah.
fun to create. And that's answered the question for me.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's a thing that you hear but it's so hard. Just like saying be in the present sounds so simple and just the hardest little thing. And you're right. I mean, I guess that's the trick. You got to figure out. It's in the simplicity of it. It's just the hardest.
I'm not going to go deeper than this.
Let's not.
Mr. Batra.
Even though the film is called Gehraiyaan, I think we ventured deep enough. Yeah.
You're in a great zone. The film's coming out.
Yeah.
Are you pumped?
I am more than pumped. I'm feeling relaxed now after many months, and I wanna enjoy this moment of just feeling less weight. I'm enjoying that.
Gonna end this podcast by saying that Ayan Mukherjee and yourself entered my life, within like a month of each other. Like I met you, and then around the same time I met Ayan, and just by talking to y'all and being in the same room as y'all and looking at how y'all look at life, I've learned so much.
Wow.
And it's made me recalibrate a lot of my goals. My goals were extremely capitalistic.
Yeah.
And I ended up on that journey, but I've also ended up seeing the poison that journey can bring. And there is some poison when your goals are purely capitalistic and all about money.
Yeah.
And then I see you guys where, from the outside looking in, you're a young Spielberg, young Scorsese.
Okay, I don't know. Those are very big words, but yeah, I mean, we are trying our best to do whatever little things we can. But Ayan is on a extremely ambitious journey, and he's given so much of his time and life and mind to that. Yeah, it's amazing. I really look up to.
I feel directors' voices need to be more out there. You guys are fascinating gents, and just even this whole journey of growing up as a man, dude. There's so many unanswered things. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of unanswered things when you're growing up as a woman. But when you're growing up on this boy to man journey, you need older males in your. My daddy issues are speaking up, no. but you need older.
That's what I'm saying. You need mentors.
Yeah.
You need people who've been through the journey, and they can just give you a little nudge and be like, I get it. Just the little left, you'll be fine.
For me, it's the peace that you guys have in your mind, dude. There's a lot of peace in your creativity for both of you.
Right.
Comes out of that place of peace, even if there's darkness,
Yeah, and I think, dude, you only look for peace when you've seen the, so to say, what weight it can otherwise have. So you're like, oh, I don't want that. Sure, I saw that. Change of plan. I don't want to go in that. As you said, man, we all start with wanting those things. And not that I want them any less, but as I said, you want to be on the path where you can arrive at it, hopefully, but with still a sane mind.
Yeah. Mr. Batra, this is the end of the show.
Thanks, buddy. This is great.
In a previous season, I would ask the guest to always say 3 pieces of advice for the youth. Now I will change it to 3 pieces of advice for people heading into their 30s. Chalo.
I actually think that people heading in their 30s have seen that plans don't always work out. So, it's time to realign and sit with yourself and ask yourself what's the new priority of things. I think that's number one. Number two would be cut out the noise because you realize that that's what's driving you crazy. And three would be in 30s you start to feel like some of the basic needs that you were chasing are now met, and now you can actually sometimes just relax and look at the good things in life, so enjoy those things and have gratitude. you know
I hear you.
I hear
I
you.
absorb the stuff you say once again, Mr. Batra.
Ah, man,
Thank you, brother.
This was great. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
Good luck for everything. Good luck for Gehraiyaan, of course. Good luck for the projects after it. Good luck for the Vipassana. And most of all, good luck for your own self-discovery, brother.
Thanks, buddy. You too.
So that was the episode for today. As you can tell, if you compare these episodes with our older Bollywood episodes, there's a world of a difference. For me, in season 2 of this show, I want to bring you guys much more knowledge, much denser conversation, meatier conversation. So tell me what you think about conversation like this. I'd also like to know if you guys are interacting with TRS Clips, our new YouTube channel, which contains the highlights of this podcast. What would you like done better there? What would you like us to change? And of course, when you're speaking about TRS, you've got to follow us on Spotify. Every episode's available on Spotify 48 hours before it's available anywhere else in the world. Here's me, hoping to have Shakun Batra and some superstar minds from the Indian film industry back on the Ranveer show. We'll see you soon.